All right, to this story now, President Cyril Ramaphosa's CR22 caucus has finally settled on a slate to contest the top 6 positions at the ANC's elective conference. It's backing Senzo Mchunu as Ramaphosa's deputy and Fikile Mbalula as Secretary General. The slate, supported by the caucus, which is made up of ANC National Executive Committee members, caused ructions among his supporters. To discuss this further, we're joined now by political analyst Zakhele Ndlovu. Zakhele, good morning and thank you very much for your time. So the list of running mates for the December elective conference has now been produced. But before we get to the individuals, can we get your views on having a list or slate to begin with? Does it not divide support base here, now that some provinces might not see their preferred candidates on the list?
Yeah, I think this has been one of the biggest problems the ANC has been facing. It divides the party. So right now you have people who don't vote for the ANC, but they are ANC members because they are for the other slate, so they don't support the slate that is in power. So it is a very divisive thing for the ANC. I hope at some point they will do away with it.
Because not only is it divisive, but if you just look at it, if you are, for instance, President Cyril Ramaphosa right now, there are other provinces such as Limpopo, even Gauteng, that have endorsed his campaign for a second term. But if on that particular slate, they don't see, for instance, with Limpopo, they don't see Stan Mathabata, then chances of them supporting become very slim because they would have wanted their preferred candidate to also make it onto that particular list. So is it not defeating the purpose here if maybe it's to attain that second term on the president's side?
Definitely. I mean, if you look at the ANC support in KwaZulu-Natal, it drops significantly in the last local government elections. And that's precisely because if you look at the current top 6, there is no one from KZN. And so ANC members in KZN who are loyal to former President Jacob Zuma did not go and vote in the local government elections, which contributed to ANC losing significant support in KZN. But I'm not sure if Limpopo we're going to see a similar trend. But obviously, there are people who will be upset in Limpopo, and obviously in the Eastern Cape who wanted Oscar Mabuyane to be the deputy.
So if we look at the candidates now, perhaps starting with Senzo Mchunu, he'll be contesting for the deputy president position. We know in his case, he missed the SG position in 2017 by a slim margin. So now he's back for deputy. What do you make of him?
Look, I think in terms of ANC politics, it was a masterstroke. It was a brilliant move on the Cyril Ramaphosa insiders to have Senzo Mchunu as the deputy. Remember that, as I pointed out, the current top 6 does not have any person from KZN. So now KZN has a chance to have someone in the top 6. As you know, the people who have signaled that they want to challenge Cyril Ramaphosa are from KZN, and that's Dr. Zweli Mkhize and Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. So now, by having someone from KZN as his deputy, it divides KZN, but it also puts KZN in a position to have a person from that province in the top 6.
But then if we look at him, Senzo, if we're going to talk about perhaps the province, there was also Mdumiseni Ntuli. Some in the political space have also criticized the decision to perhaps remove Mdumiseni Ntuli because it seemed he was making headway, particularly in the Eastern Cape. He seemed to be getting some sort of support. So in selecting a KZN candidate, what would you think in this instance was the thought behind it? Is it the proximity to the president, which we would say Senzo does enjoy, he's closer currently, or what was it?
Well, look, I think Senzo Mchunu is one of the most trusted lieutenants of the president. He was one of the first ANC leaders in KwaZulu-Natal to openly campaign for Cyril Ramaphosa in the lead up to the Nazareth conference. And as you correctly pointed out, he lost the position of SG by a close margin. And he has been very loyal to President Cyril Ramaphosa. But also, as I indicated, this was a masterstroke in terms of ANC politics by having someone from KZN as the deputy. If there's one thing that we have seen, which is a certainty, is that the person who deputizes the president goes on to be elected the president of the party, and then also goes on to become the president. Well, first of all, they become the president of the party and then president of the country. But going forward now, nothing is guaranteed. We don't know what's going to happen after the 2024 elections, if the ANC is going to continue to be the dominant political party in South African electoral politics.
And then as for Fikile Mbalula, your take on his candidacy?
No, Fikile Mbalula is being rewarded for being one of the strongest supporters of President Cyril Ramaphosa. And as you know, he did contest the position of SG in 2012 and he lost.
Yes.
So now he's being given another chance to contest this position. And this time around, he stands a better chance of being elected SG.
And then for him politically, you would believe that he is fit for purpose, particularly for that office, because really, essentially, the SG's office is the engine of a political party.
That's a good question. He has a long history in the ANC, starting with the ANC Youth League. He's a hard worker. He's seen as a hard worker in ANC politics. He's still relatively young. So my sense is that he is the right person to contest that position.
Speaking of young, there was one point at the beginning of all these conversations around who to nominate. We had heard of Ronald Lamola possibly deputizing President Cyril Ramaphosa, even Mamoloko Kupai. But it seems now these two names have fallen off. Do you see a situation here where the younger might be aggrieved and whatever support is coming, for instance, from Mpumalanga, might now be divided, where they decide not to vote for the president's slate because it no longer has their preferred candidate, who's Ronald Lamola, for instance?
Yeah, good question. I think that Ramaphosa made a calculation. He figured that he has more to lose by not appointing someone from KZN as his running mate. I think he could live with the fact that Ronald Lamola is not his running mate. After all, he appointed him to a very senior ministerial position as the Minister of Justice. So I think in his calculation, he figured that Senzo Mchunu would be the right person who would help him to gain support in KZN, which, by the way, is the only province which has not given him support in the past. So I don't think that Mpumalanga, Limpopo will go against Ramaphosa simply because it does not have people from those provinces in the top 6.